She's Russian.
Oh, yeah.
Give her a little
I have
charge.
face cream.
I know.
Clock. I just turned it on. Yeah.
And that's just gonna be filled in there.
Do my little thing first. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. We'd all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First call to order is the oath of office of Liam and Rick Preston. Please stand. Please raise your hand. I state your name.
Brian McNally,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
That I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as General Board Member
And I will faithfully
discharge our duties as general board member
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to my best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Should have started the clock.
Thanks, guys. Right. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the nomination of the board president. Could I please have a nomination for someone for the president of the Board of Education?
I'd like to nominate Rick Preston.
Second?
I'll second that nomination.
That was all too quick.
There you go, Rick.
Thank you.
And would everybody like to vote?
Mine's not popping up. I'm a
It
yes.
will.
Okay.
Do you need, is it popping up yet?
Yes.
It's very sophisticated. Seems like voting in Congress, you just push the button.
Right?
Yeah,
How
let's
many
vote
yeas
yes.
and nays?
That's the way it is.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
let's go on.
Perfect.
I abstained by accident.
You, what?
Wow.
I'm just kidding, I'm in good conscience. Just kidding.
I'll second it, but I just can't vote for it.
That's right, that's right. I'm trying
You
to
get to get
move it
sworn
along.
in.
It's more on side. It's the first song's in the building.
What?
I'll just spell it. I state your name.
I, Rick Preston,
Do solemnly swear
solemnly
that
swear
I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York.
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as
I will faithfully discharge the duties as
President of the Board of Education
President of the Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations.
Okay, you're running the show now.
That's right. He's
Great
enjoying
job,
it.
Karen. Great job.
She loved every minute of
And
it.
my 5 shades of red.
Do 15 minutes a day, once a year.
Nominations for Board Vice President. We have a nomination for Vice President,
I nominate Dan Marvin.
please. Are there any other nominations?
Did I choose the wrong one? Oh, okay.
Wrong
Second thought.
Choose anyone in the room that's a board member,
I'll
right?
second.
Unless you do yourself, and then I'd have to get the book out. Okay, second by Jeff. Any discussion or?
Thank both of you.
Alright,
Thank you.
Yeah, really, thank you both of you.
Congratulations,
Thank you.
Dan. Get
Thank
ready for your ball. Oh, you're,
I still have to swear.
oh, yeah.
Getting ahead of ourselves.
Mhm.
We're not clapping yet. You don't deserve it to take the oath.
I'll just read it.
Just hand me a piece of paper.
I, Dan Marvin,
I, Dan Marvin,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as
and I will faithfully discharge the duties as
Vice President
Vice President
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Good of the cause. It's time set aside for the public to speak if there is anyone, either of you wish to speak.
I'm just here for the water bottle filling station, and I was very fortunate to find out that at your annual meeting, and it's quite far down the agenda. Everybody's waiting for me at the Songs of Mirror Lake.
You might want to go for ice cream and come back.
Can we move it in the agenda, Rick?
We have to get through we could move it up. Actually, we're going to move fairly quickly.
Because
aren't we?
consent agenda.
Yeah.
Most of
Yeah.
it's consent,
Because it's consent.
a lot of it's consent agenda.
Sure. Art ran the meeting last night. We were only village board for 25 minutes, so I got another hour in me. So.
All right, next on the agenda is the consent. Recommended action is approve the following items which are included in the consent agenda. 8A, Board of Education meeting dates. 8B, appointment of district officers. 8C, appointment of other positions. 8D, bonding of personnel. 8E, designations. 8F, authorizations. 9A, approval of the June 18th meeting with, there have been some changes today, I believe. 11A, policy 5300, code of conduct, which serves as a second read and adoption after the public hearing on June 18th. 11B, BOCES transportation contract. 11F, cell phone approval, and 11H, the special education packet. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda if everybody is in favor?
Yes.
You have to do a first and a second.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll second it.
He's new.
First,
He asked, everyone just said yes.
Only
He asked for a motion, everyone just said yes, so.
Jeff, I heard you first. You first? Who seconded? Thank you, Colleen.
Okay, now you can vote.
I have little lines usually, I didn't put it on there.
Sorry.
Any discussion? If not, please vote.
Seven yes.
0 against. Reports. Policy committee report from the meeting from June 13th, 2019. Joe?
Yep, 3 of us were there at the meeting, which didn't matter, we weren't voting on anything, so we discussed policy 5152 with the admission of non-resident students. We included some additions, just in wording and stuff, and we left one part out because we didn't feel it was necessary. We also discussed policy 9620, which is child abuse in an educational setting. And Favor offered some legal wording because some things weren't worded correctly. And then board members are now mandated, are put on the mandated reporter list, and our question is, how do we obtain training for that? Because we don't really see the kids on a daily basis. So that was a question for you that we had.
Okay.
So, and then one other policy we looked at was voter registration, and we need to relook at that, so we really didn't do much. There was just too few of us to really make a difference on that one. And our next meeting is in September sometime, I think. That's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Joe?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
So based on that, the next agenda item is policy first reads. There's 2 policies, 9620, which is child abuse in the educational setting, and 5152, which is admission of non-resident students. Hopefully you have an opportunity to look through those. Any comments on those?
Not much more than what Joan said. Okay. You can see the additions in there and underline and some of the changes, but I think Joan summarized it very very nicely.
There's no more discussion. Superintendent's report.
Okay, I just have a couple of things I wanted to bring to you tonight. First is a nice announcement coming from NISPA. As you know, NISPA keeps track of the leadership development hours that board members put in over the course of their career on the board. And tonight, we have a certificate to recognize one member of our school board for their the leadership hours that they have put in towards school board training. And so let me read this to you. NISPA's school board, School Board U, you're familiar with that, presents this Board Excellence Award to Jeffrey Brownell. And this is for participation in the New York State School Board Association Leadership Development Opportunities totaling 150 points. So congratulations, Jeff. If they would just count the amount of time it took you to put together that PowerPoint.
Oh, yeah.
Gives you one-way flight to anywhere in New England.
Yes.
Those points.
Sometimes go to Boston. The second thing I wanted to review is the graduate summary that I provided to you on board docs, and Karen has it posted up here. So many of us participated in a wonderful graduation ceremony on Friday night. We once again were fortunate with the weather, by that much, but we were fortunate with the weather. And as Colleen pointed out, we had a great speaker. But I wanted to share with you some information about that wonderful group of young people who were sitting on the stage, all dressed in blue. Right. So if you look at the top group, you can see a summary of the graduates. There were 57 students sitting on the stage. And 55 of them were graduates receiving diplomas. 2 of them were international students who were here for 1 year and received a certificate of completion. Of the information in that section, in that top section, I'll just highlight a few things. First of all, that percentage next to total graduates, would that reflect, that's our early estimate. So this is not, these are not formal numbers, and I'm pointing this out to you, Elizabeth, just in case you report it that way. Graduation rates are not reported until the following spring. So this is just an early estimate. The graduation rate we talk about every once in a while, and Lake Placid being pretty high, usually 90% and higher. So our early estimate is particularly high at 98%. And what that means is that the way the state data collection system works is it looks at all those students who started high school in the fall of 2015. They call that a cohort. And so they do a mathematical calculation, on completion versus total cohort numbers, which would include non-completers. And so the closer you are to the same number, the total number of completers over the total number of students in the cohort, the closest you get closest to 100%, right? So, so this is a very high number because in almost all cases, students who began high school in 2015 graduated in June of this year. So I think it's a very exciting statement. I think it speaks really highly about our high school and the people, both the students, the families, as well as the staff who bend over backwards to make sure that our students are successful. So I was very happy to see that number. And then there's a lot of interesting numbers there you can ask questions about. I just thought I would highlight the technical endorsements. 25% of our graduates earn some kind of technical endorsement. And I know as a school board, you've been very vocal about making sure that we support students working towards careers as well as towards future academic options. And what you can see there is that's exactly what's happening. 25% of our students graduated with technical endorsements. In terms of future plans, again, you can see here 42% of our students are planning to attend four-year colleges, 20%, actually 25% to a two-year or other post-secondary opportunity. So that's a total of about 2/3 of the classes planning on going to school next year. 5% are headed towards the military, 18% are planning on employment. And then I thought another interesting number is the gap year. I don't know how familiar you are with gap years, but it's become more common for students to consider a year after high school a time at which they can, experience the world, learn about themselves, and determine for themselves what the best route is forward. And so 5 students have determined that they're going to pursue a gap year next year. And a gap year is not any one thing, it's one of many. I know, for example, you could have read this in the program. I know one of those students is in a very formal international exchange program next year. So that's an example of what could be a gap year, but there are plenty of other gap year type experiences for students. So if you go on to page 2, again, before our graduates were on stage, all or most of our high school students were busy taking Regents exams. And so this, again, is a preliminary summary. I say preliminary because I do the counting, and I know I didn't get it perfect. So it's a preliminary summary of results of our Regents exams. Unlike the grade 3 through 8 exams, the Regents exams are scored quickly. And so we do have a record of that right away. So again, just to highlight a few things, 93% of our students taking the English Regents, typically taken by 11th graders, all 11th graders this year. 93% passed that, with 50% in that high exceed range of 85 to 100%. You can see 83%, I'm totaling the last 2 columns, 83% of our algebra students passed the exam. And then I'm going to highlight for you the Algebra 2 numbers. 100% of our students who took the Algebra 2 Common Core exam passed the Algebra 2 Common Core exam. And again, the next page has sort of a 5-year, over the last 5 years, and you can see that. Certainly not in the past 5 years, I don't believe ever has that been the case for that exam. If anything, that's been an exam we've identified as having some low scores in the past. And so it's just really encouraging to see 100% passing that.
Roger, I'm
yeah.
sorry, excuse me.
Okay.
What is the difference between the geometry? I understand Common Core, but are there 2 different exams that says geometry, Common Core?
There was. So
Okay.
yeah, when you're looking at that next page, I was going to show you, I was going to talk about geometry on the next page.
Okay.
But so we've had a series of exams. The math exams have typically changed over the course of years. In 20 years, I've probably seen 4 changes, about approximately 4 changes in the math exams. They're always under some kind of evolution. The most recent evolution is the Common Core learning standards, that the exams earlier did not reflect the Common Core learning standards, and so that was a big shift. So the algebra went first, geometry, then algebra 2. So if you want to look at that next page for the historical, the 5 years, you can see there how we typically do. The top is passing, the bottom is mastery, and so you can see there that for English the 93% is high, but not unusually high. We typically have most of our students passing 90 to 94%, with that one exception earlier. The algebra exam is one where, again, we've had between 64 and 88% of our students passing that the first time through. It is a required exam for graduation, so it's important that our students are going to be successful in algebra for a number of reasons. Then if you look at geometry, you'll see that this year was a low year for geometry. So that's why the historical, I think, is really helpful here. That typically our geometry scores have been very strong, and this year we did have a drop-off. And you can see in the Algebra 2 the increase there to the 100%. The global, like the math, the global is under evolution also for a different reason. They're shifting to the more recent standards there. So you see 2 exam scores, at least 2 exam scores in this year, Global History and Geography, and then the Global History and Geography 2, the new framework. Our students took both of those exams. So we'll see how that falls over time. You can see our U.S. history scores were a little lower in terms of passing this year than in previous years. And you can see that our chemistry is sort of a notch up from last year in terms of passing. In terms of mastery, I think just a couple of things I noticed was the physics mastery was high, the earth science mastery was high, and I already mentioned that the English mastery was high. In some cases, the mastery was low, right? So you see more scores towards the middle than you do at the high extreme, or in some cases than you do at the low extreme. So that's a quick summary for you, just so you can get an idea about how these last 2 weeks went here at the in the high school, and I'll try and bring more to board meetings over the summer as the information becomes available. Any questions or comments about these?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Information for the board. There are 2 items. The NISBA Area 6 Annual Dinner in Malone at the Golf Club. Please let Karen know if you're planning on attending. And also the Keene baseball merger.
Right, so this is an information because you haven't seen this before, because this is a new information, right? Keene has been able, up until this point, Keene has been able to have its own baseball team. However, softball has not been the case with softball, so their softball players have been coming this way. You also might remember that this year, Keene athletes joined our cross-country team, joined our track team, joined our ski teams. So we have been dramatically increasing the number of mergers we've had with Keene. Well, unfortunately for them, because they do take pride in their sports. Unfortunately for them, they do not believe they have enough boys for baseball next year, and so they are, they're asking us to add by providing a baseball merger. So that's the quick information, and what I would propose is that we put this on a future agenda for discussion and approval.
It's on
It's on later?
It's on
Oh, is it on later, this one?
Yes.
Oh, it is on later, I'm sorry.
Unless they want to.
Right, so we put it on later in case you were comfortable with that and wanted to vote on it, but it would also be fine to postpone that vote until the next meeting. That really would be up to the board.
Do we know how many players they would have?
I do not have an actual number right there. I do not believe it's high, but I cannot tell you how many. Yeah, I didn't have it. I didn't ask it either. Yeah. So,
That was last year's.
Well, that was last year for us.
Oh, that was, okay.
If you'd like, I could, bring that in.
Did you ask what the numbers are on our team?
No, how many would be coming up from Keene?
And how many is currently on our team? Anybody know?
No.
The full roster?
Well, this year there
Oh,
was
yeah, I see.
15, 16.
This year we had modified and we had varsity.
Right.
No JV.
Right.
So our numbers were,
You're losing 8.
were low also. Typically we've had 3 teams. I'll get more information on numbers there. And if you want to wait until you get that, we would postpone that vote until later. Okay.
On that note, I had at the alumni banquet, had 2 people come up to me, just totally independent of one another, and just wanting to express their thank you for the mergers that we've been accepting and also entertaining, that it means a lot to the kids.
I'll say that the Keene players have brought a lot to the programs. They've been typically a very positive group of athletes. They work hard. I know our coaches really speak highly of the additions, so it's been a nice addition.
Any other discussion? Policy, number 7 is policy review. Following policies require an annual review. Hopefully you took time to read them, review them. The code of conduct is not as part of this. We put that under the consent after the June 18th hearing. 6240 investments, purchasing 6,700, attendance 5,100, and free and reduced price meal service 8520. Any questions, comments?
The free and reduced lunch, what percentage rate are we sitting at?
We're in the low 40s right now.
It was 43% was reported during budget time.
And as I mentioned in some of the background information, we're still too low to qualify for the community eligibility option. It would be a nice piece to add. We've talked about it here before. Unfortunately, the way they calculate that is different. The way they calculate it is different than a simple percentage of students eligible. They look at students who qualify only in certain ways. So we're still not eligible.
Are we missing any families in the data that's being compiled for the percentage? Does it require the parents to fill out forms for this?
So more and more families qualify by participating in other outside programs, Medicaid as an example, and other programs like that. So it's less and less reliant on people being willing to fill out the forms. That being said, yes, the answer
Still
is yes,
missing some.
that we do not have 100% of the kids who would be eligible, could be eligible with families filling out forms. But it's less than it used to be.
Okay.
Anything else? Action items. 8A was consent, 8B was consent, 8C, thank you very much for not allowing me to read the 30-plus positions. 8D, 8E, F were all consent. Minutes of the Board of Education meeting from June 18th, that's under consent as well. Personnel matters, teaching staff maternity leave, recommended action upon action. Recommendation of the superintendent, approve the maternity leave request of Kristen Harvey, special education teacher in the middle and high school, beginning on or about October 24th, 2019 through January 5th, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
You, Colleen? Is that Colleen?
Yes.
Okay. Second, please. Thank you, Dan. Discussion? If no discussion, please vote. 7 yes, 0 no, motion passes. Teaching staff appointment. Recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Katie, let's see how I can butcher this, Videla-Stock?
Beetlesbach,
You did.
What is it?
Beetlesbach.
Beetlesbach? Darn.
I know the family.
Okay. Sorry, Katie, if you're watching. Professional certification students with disabilities grades 7 through 12 to the position of special education teacher, replacing Margaret Gallagher in the tenure area of special education effective September 1st, 2019 for a 4-year term tentatively scheduled to conclude on August 31st, 2023, contingent upon her completion of the probationary term and having received composite or overall APPR ratings of either effective or highly effective in at least 3 areas, in at least 3 of the 4 preceding years. The term for tenure can be reduced to 3 years with an overall rating of high effective or highly effective for the 2018-2019 school year. For the 2019-20 school year, the salary would be $45,884. I'm sorry?
I changed it
Oh.
after, it's 55.
55. Salary will be $55,884, step 13. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Masters plus 42 with the Lake Placid Education Association negotiated agreement. May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Lynn. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Martha. Any discussion? Please vote. 7-4-0 against, motion passes. C, recommended action upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Kathleen Wright, certified physical therapist, position of .69 physical therapist, replacing Karen Merritt Knox for a probationary period of 1 year beginning September 1st, 2019 through August 31st, 2020. Salary will be $34,676, step 3, Masters plus 60 of the Lake Placid Education Association negotiated agreement. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Colleen, second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I was shocked to see this.
I'm sure you were. I was shocked to have another great applicant like
Yes,
this.
that's
She's a
great.
terrific applicant.
7-4-0 against. Motion passes. Additional action items, the policy second read is the code of conduct, that was consent. The BOCES transportation was consent. 11C, recommended action, whereas the board wishes to send up to 4 members of the Board of Education, including the superintendent, to the NYSBA annual conference in Rochester, New York on October 24th through the 26th, 2019, at the cost of $490 per person plus travel expenses. Whereas monies have been budgeted for the board members to attend conferences, now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby approves up to 4 people to attend the NYSBA annual convention in Rochester, New York on October 24th through 26th, 2019 at a cost of $490 per person plus travel expenses. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Second?
Second.
Discussion? Let Karen know if you're interested, please. That is if it passes, obviously. 7-4-0 against.
Almost like a little mini game, kind of like you anticipated.
Next item is the athletic merger. Recommended action, be it resolved that the Lake Placid Central School approves the boys hockey merger with Saranac Lake Central School for a period of 1 year, effective for the 2019-2020 school year. This will be a merged identity with Lake Placid and Saranac Lake, with costs to be split between the 2 districts. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Second, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Discussion on this matter?
Yeah, you know, it's kind of with like a heavy heart that I have to vote this way. I feel like it's indicative of what's going on in our communities with the shrinking population. And this just seems like another example of a tradition or an institution or a business that's just not going to exist anymore because we face a shrinking population, which is related to all sorts of issues from housing to economic development. So I'll certainly vote for this, but it's with a heavy heart.
So I think we all share that though. I think, but I think moving forward, what options do we have if we want to have a competitive team where the students can participate? And I think most of us here do move with a heavy heart.
Well said, thank you.
Going down history for
Yeah.
We'll read it.
It's 7-4-0 against, the motion passes, thank you. Did you want to, does the board wish to table the Keene baseball merger? Okay, so we'll table.
I'm too shook up from the hockey vote to vote for
Yeah.
baseball. Okay, I was just,
Put you over, huh?
yeah, it might be over, it's sort of rough.
F is the cell phone, which was under consent, and G, here we are.
Excited.
So that didn't take long.
No, not at all.
Usually got a lot of time.
I was,
I can slow down.
26 minutes. No, that's what I'm telling you. This is
The water bill,
minute.
water bottle filler approval. Recommended action, whereas the students from the third grade wish to have a water bottle filler station added to the drinking fountain near the third grade classrooms, whereas the monies have been raised to add the water bottle filler station. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education hereby approves the water bottle filler station to be added to the water fountain near the third grade classroom. Was that volitional? Wow.
Wow.
May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Second?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Any discussion?
I was impressed with the 3 students.
Very much so.
Nice
Great
article in
job.
the paper, by the way.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Perfectly
Great
captured.
job by them.
I was over the moon, and I told them the minute. It was just, and also then I texted the parents and said, you should be very, very proud of your child. This is, for 8, 9 years old, speaking in front of not one, but 2 groups of people.
Great, thank you.
And then,
Motion passes 7-4-0 against.
communicate to the parents. If you may, I appreciate, I received a thank you card. And I was going to have the students email you back, and then I was going to email you back, but I promised them I would be here, but I also wanted to thank you personally, because I'm like, you didn't have to send the card, and I'm honored and blessed to work for a district that not only asks, but encourages and supports teachers providing students opportunities to make a difference in their community and incorporating it into their curriculum instead of just a worksheet and homework, drill and kill. This is a push to evolve education as a whole, to make it meaningful in real life, applicable. I'm very honored that it starts from the board through the superintendent and comes down through the principals, especially Mrs. Franklin's. Like, this is, anytime I've ever asked for anything along those lines in order to help encourage this, she's bent over backwards. And I know that it's just symbolic of the superintendent and this board. Not many districts are like this, and we're very honored. I'm very honored.
Thank you.
I'll let you get back to the more exciting stuff.
Thank you.
Hi, Jason.
Discussion. Get down there, sorry. So 12A is committee appointments. I had emailed out to board members the list and who was on them. Hopefully you had an opportunity to see that. The list includes policy committee, health and safety for buildings and grounds, for the audit committee, ad hoc committees formed throughout the year, and all of us are invited to participate on those. So any discussion on let me get to the list of the committees.
Rick, would you mind if I interrupted you
Oh,
and just went
please.
backwards a little bit?
Sure.
The special education,
Oh,
and I don't know how y'all approach it, but the packet that you'll vote on at the next meeting is fairly lengthy. And I think there's names of the students represented there. And it's mostly annual reviews, and they're mostly higher need students. I'm confident that they're really well done, but you may look at it and have some questions, and that would be just fine. So if you would let us know early, and if we would need to reach out to Sarah Allen, the CSE chair, we would ask her to come to the next meeting. If you just want to discuss it with me, I'm pretty familiar with the students as well. So just want to make sure you know that in advance, so you're not surprised on a Monday night by the only for packet.
My apologies for
No.
skipping over that as well. While we're on that, does anybody have any questions about the July 16th packet? I know it's,
And I added, so it's in 2 sections, but when you see it next time, it'll all just be one.
okay, thank you.
But it seems like there's still some fluidity in it at this point.
Well, what happened was Lisa's daughter graduated and she left, and she had like 4 more or whatever to finish. That was in the second packet. So that's why instead of adding it on and say, oh, you gotta start at page number 45.
Okay, so the committee appointments, in board docs, you'll see the various committees and who are the team members on those committees. So we're not looking for any firm commitment, but look those over and see if you're interested in remaining on those committees. I know I got a message from Martha about the, what am I looking for?
Shared
Yeah,
responsibility?
the shared governance,
Shared decision.
shared
Decision-making,
decision
that's
making,
right.
yes.
I was just curious what that was.
So, and that was a goal for this year, which I think will carry to next year, but if, Colleen, you've been on that in the past?
I have, and I'll stay on it. I was curious, is there room for another board member on the Health and Safety Committee?
Well, I think there probably is. Liam and I and, why not?
If so, I don't know what the
You kind of-
protocol is, but I think I'd like to switch from policy to the health and safety, if that's possible. If it's of more interest to you.
Mhm.
Any other changes or additions?
June, do you know what the policy committee meeting, if any of the other people indicated whether they were going to stay on or not, or anything?
I think they've all,
Community members I'm speaking of?
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
talking
they
about
were
like
staying.
Patty and Mary in favor of Pat.
there was only 3 of us at that time, so I don't know.
Okay.
I haven't heard that they weren't, so.
Okay, I'll just email them and ask.
Dan, you okay with audit committee for now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Karen Meister said yes also.
Okay. Shared decision-making committee, do you see that as a viable committee?
It hasn't been, and Colleen and I have
Right.
discussed it. We've been we've been a part of that committee when it's been very successful, and we've been a part of that committee when it has not. And I know we talked about this last year at this time. And we have yet to see any indication that that's going to be a productive committee. So we certainly could revisit it and try and find ways to make that happen. But I know last year we put that off.
Now, are the I guess, the duties, the goals, objectives of that committee being met by other committees? Or?
Well, remember last year we put together some temporary committees, some ad hoc committees. And those were I think those were very helpful.
Sure.
And so, and that was part of the goal of the shared decision-making committee anyway, was to operate as an umbrella where, the discussions on those issues could be explored. So I think those ad hoc committees work well, and maybe we should continue them.
Yeah, I think that one example, Roger, is the one with the community service requirement
Yeah.
that we met as
Yeah.
an ad hoc. That would have been something previously that we would have addressed in the shared decision committee. So
Yes.
I think I gotta resign from the Health and Safety Committee, because I can't make it 3 o'clock. It's a terrible time.
You'll be on luck because the policy committee has an opening and that's not.
I'm not making any commitments right now.
Yeah, the 3 o'clock work.
I'm gonna resign for right now and,
Later to be named later.
yeah.
So it appears we're all set with, and if one comes up, let us know.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the committees? If you have any change of heart or any other desires, just let Karen or myself know. Actually, Karen. Objectives, setting objectives for 2019-20. Karen shared the working drafts of the goals, objectives for 2019-20 in the Google Docs. I was in there today and just added a couple of comments. Martha, you've been in there, I believe. So if my goal is, if it works, which I'd like to see it work, is August 20th. Does that seem reasonable?
I think I have it on the board meeting to discuss it again. at
Right.
The next board meeting.
So
also.
hopefully, if you can get in there and just make some recommendations, some changes, the old goals are there, just, highlight and see what you'd like to add. I've made notes of 4 goals just from tonight, so just look it over when your mindset is right, and add some goals. And
Does everybody have access to their LPCSD.net email?
I do now.
Do you feel like my response?
No, but I do get notices once a month that I have to change my password, and I don't know if anybody else gets that.
Oh, yeah, we do.
It's quite
Yeah,
frustrating.
yeah.
You can use the same one
I
over
know,
again.
but it's just,
I have 2, I just switch back and forth.
me too.
Old email.
I know, it must be because they're not in the district.
Okay, wow, 7:17, we're entering the adjournment phase.
Right. It's amazing.
It's that consent agenda, I tell you. It really is. So, next meeting, dates and location, July 16th, right here, August 13th. The August 20th is generally a to be determined or as needed, if we have last minute appointments.
Part of,
to
it's
approve.
partially that, it's also the tax rolls,
Right.
right? So that's usually the more, like the most critical issue right then and there, because at some point the board has to approve that.
Right.
Right, and that's why we've initially gone from the first Tuesday in August to that Tuesday.
Correct.
Yeah.
Then we're back in session.
Don't move us along too quickly, there's a lot to do between now and then.
Until the summer,
July 2nd, he's already talking about September.
bad session.
Old agenda topics, we have the St. Agnes busing, that's going to be one of those ad hoc committees.
Yes, we talked about it at the last meeting.
Yes.
Do we have a plan for moving ahead with it?
Who was it, Colleen? No, you abstained. Anybody interested in being on that committee?
I'll do it.
And I'll be there.
We want to include Jeff on that? Probably.
If you want.
I think Jeff or you need to be on that because it's really important to know how the use is,
Right.
managed and monitored.
Well, the last time I sat on it, that way he didn't have
Do you want
to.
to invite Jeff into that?
Okay.
If you can, make it.
Representative from St. Agnes, or not necessarily at this point? Make that a follow-up meeting?
Maybe a follow-up.
And then onboarding for new school board members. is pending, just looking for an empty spot on the agenda.
I
So,
would think so.
new topic items, which we can put on next time, is potential for a board retreat. What, where, and who. Any other new agenda items? Anyone else? Additional mergers?
We're bringing the baseball one back. Is that new, or is that just a continuation?
That'll just be a continuation. Okay, if there's no further discussion, move to adjourn. Recommended action is motion to adjourn the meeting at 7:20.
Yay.
Need a motion, please?
Yes.
Dan, second?
Second.
Was that Martha?
I did speak, yes.
And
How about these papers back?
7:40, oops, she's gonna put it up there.
Oh, I closed out my computer.
Oh, that's all right, I'll mark it unanimous.
Yes.
Perfect.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Good job.
Thanks.
Karen, you want these papers? correct?
Yes.
I have something that you're interested as part of our audit.
I mean, it was only 3 years ago that we did it.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Don't forget your
Rick
sign
signs
up
off
to do
on,
that.
on one of the, actual agreement he's doing
Yeah,
now.
my-
Thing
was
is
it the
we'll-
third?
it's the 13th.
I don't have an actual rate.
Yeah.
I'm leaving.
It's a Friday and Saturday ice cream.
All day Friday, all day
Excellent.
Saturday.
Good
It's
idea.
been great answers.
You put it in your calendar.
Yeah, I did. I
Thank
want to
you.
make sure that I did.
It's already labeled.
I'm right behind you, Jeff.
Figure out.
Just running out.
12 and 13, or 13, 14?
It's
nice
Friday
that you
and
have
Saturday,
this process.
12
Okay.
and 13.
Perfect, yep, I'm good.
Thank you so much.
I'm good.
Thank you.
So the board's.
Bank, fiscal advisors, it's all just like that. I just sign it, stick it in the envelope, mail it out to
You ready?
various entities that we use for,
No, you know, I knew that came up, I read it in your article, and we've never had
Or
any.
any
Your instances of fraud, that's within
On one
this
team.
school district.
Right,
The
yep,
different
everything is all
options included
pertaining
on
to
one